Welcome back to the channel, Rare Coins History, Coin Lovers and Treasure Seekers. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating and mysterious coins from American history, the 1965 Washington quarter dollar. Now, at first glance, this coin might not look too different from the quarters we still use today, but trust me, there's much more to it than meets the eye. By the end of this video, you'll discover why this specific quarter is so special, what to look for, and how much it could actually be worth in today's collector market. Let's start with the background. The year 1965 was a turning point for American coinage. Up until 1964, quarters were made of 90% silver. But as the price of silver skyrocketed, the U.S. Mint had to make a big decision. In order to save costs and prevent coin hoarding, they removed silver entirely from quarters starting in 1965, replacing it with a copper-nickel-clad composition. That decision changed the face of U.S. coins forever. Now, here's where things get interesting. Because of this sudden change, collectors pay very close attention to 1965 quarters. Some rare examples are believed to have been struck on leftover silver planchets from 1964, which makes them incredibly valuable. In addition, mint marks, or in some cases the absence of mint marks, play a huge role in determining a coin's rarity and desirability. The 1965 Washington quarter officially was produced without a mint mark, but certain rare variations and minting anomalies have sparked great interest in the collecting world. When we talk about the design, the Washington quarter is iconic. On the obverse, or the front of the coin, you see the left-facing profile of George Washington, the nation's first president. The word liberty appears above his head, while the national motto, "In God We Trust," sits prominently beside him. On the reverse, we find the bold image of an eagle with wings outstretched, clutching arrows and surrounded by olive branches, symbols of both military readiness and peace. It's a design that has stood the test of time and represents the values of strength and freedom. But what makes the 1965 quarter so captivating to collectors today is not just its design, but its story. Remember, this was the first year the U.S. Mint transitioned away from silver. Millions of these coins entered circulation, but the rare variations, especially those that appear with unique minting features, are what set certain quarters apart. For example, coins struck with sharper details, or those with errors like double strikes, off-center strikes, or planchet mistakes, are highly desirable. Condition also plays a massive role in determining value. A 1965 Washington quarter that has been in circulation and shows heavy wear may only be worth face value. But a quarter preserved in mint state condition, with no scratches, discoloration, or signs of wear, can bring in serious money. Collectors place tremendous importance on grading, where professional services assign coins a grade from poor condition all the way up to the perfect MS 70. The higher the grade, the higher the value. Over the years, the 1965 quarter has earned a reputation among collectors as one of those coins you should always check carefully before spending or tossing into a change jar. People have found rare variants tucked away in old drawers, inherited collections, or even in pocket change. Imagine finding a coin worth thousands of dollars when you least expect it. It's the kind of discovery that keeps coin collecting exciting and alive. Now, let's touch on the appeal of error coins once again. Error coins are the gems of the numismatic world. A small minting mistake turns an ordinary coin into a rare treasure. With the 1965 Washington quarter, some of the most valuable examples are those struck on a leftover silver planchet from the previous year. If you ever come across one of these, it could be life-changing. Always check the coin's weight. Silver planchets weigh slightly more than the copper-nickel versions. This small detail could be the difference between having a regular quarter and having a rare collectible worth tens of thousands of dollars. The Washington quarter has always been a part of everyday American life, used in vending machines, parking meters, and millions of daily transactions. But for collectors, each quarter tells a story of history, economy, and craftsmanship. The 1965 quarter in particular represents the end of an era, when silver coins disappeared from circulation and a new age of coinage began. That history, combined with the potential for rare variants and errors, is what makes this coin such a sought-after prize in the world of numismatics. So now comes the moment you've been waiting for. Just how much can a rare and valuable 1965 Washington quarter dollar be worth today? Well, if you're lucky enough to own one of these coins in pristine, uncirculated condition, or even rarer, one struck on a leftover silver planchet, it could be valued at an incredible $45,000. Yes, you heard that right. $45,000 for a single quarter. Something you might have overlooked in your change could turn out to be worth a small fortune. That's why it's always important to check your coins carefully. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of American quarters, focusing on one that carries a special place in numismatic history, the 1966 Washington quarter dollar. At first glance, this coin may seem like an ordinary piece of change you'd find in your pocket, but hidden within its history are stories of economic shifts, collector mysteries, and the chance that your coin might actually be worth a fortune. Stick with me, because you won't want to miss the surprising value reveal at the end of this video. To understand the importance of the 1966 Washington quarter, we need to go back to the mid-1960s. In 1964, the United States Mint made a landmark decision to remove silver from circulating dimes, quarters, and half dollars. Rising silver prices meant people were hoarding coins, melting them down, and taking them out of circulation. By 1965, quarters were no longer struck in 90% silver. Instead, they were made with a copper-nickel-clad composition bonded to a pure copper core. This change altered the very fabric of U.S. coinage and marked the end of an era. Now, when it comes to mint marks, the 1966 Washington quarter stands out for a unique reason. Normally, U.S. coins display a mint mark indicating where they were produced, such as a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. But during 1965, 1966, and 1967, the U.S. Mint made another important change. It deliberately omitted mint marks from all circulating coins. Why? The government wanted to discourage collectors from snatching up coins based on rarity and to ensure that enough coins stayed in circulation during a time of nationwide coin shortages. As a result, every 1966 Washington quarter was struck without a mint mark. That absence itself makes these coins a reflection of the economic and political atmosphere of the mid-1960s. When we look at the design of the 1966 quarter, it remains faithful to the original Washington quarter design introduced in 1932. On the obverse, we see the familiar portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. Above his head is the word liberty, and to the left is the phrase "In God We Trust." On the reverse, we find the strong, detailed image of a heraldic eagle with wings spread wide, clutching arrows in its talons and framed by olive branches, a timeless representation of both America's military strength and its pursuit of peace. This design would remain unchanged for decades until the introduction of the 50-state quarters program in 1999. But what makes the 1966 quarter so interesting for collectors today isn't just its design, but its story. While millions were minted, the condition of these coins makes all the difference. Circulated coins that pass through countless hands may only be worth their face value, but examples preserved in pristine, uncirculated condition tell a completely different story. Coins graded by professional services such as PCGS or NGC can fetch significantly higher prices depending on their quality. A high-grade mint state coin with sharp details, bright luster, and no noticeable flaws is the kind of specimen collectors dream of finding. And then, there are the errors. Mint errors are some of the most fascinating aspects of coin collecting, and the 1966 quarter has its share of them. Some quarters have been discovered with double strikes, off-center strikes, or planchet flaws. Others are rumored to have been struck on leftover silver planchets from 1964, though these are extremely rare and highly prized if verified. Error coins always attract intense collector interest because no two are exactly alike, making each one a unique piece of history. Think about it, a simple mistake at the mint, something as small as using the wrong planchet or a misaligned die, can transform a common quarter into a one-of-a-kind treasure. That's the kind of discovery coin hunters and collectors dream of, and it's why checking your change carefully is always worth the effort. Let's not forget about the historical significance. The The 1966 Washington quarter embodies a transitional moment in U.S. coinage. It reminds us of the economic challenges of the 1960s, the government's efforts to stabilize the currency system, and the changes that shaped the coins we use today. Every quarter from that year is a small artifact of that story. When collectors add a 1966 quarter to their collection, they're not just holding a coin, they're holding a piece of American history. So now, the question you've been waiting for: just how valuable can a 1966 Washington quarter really be? Well, the answer depends on a variety of factors, including condition, rarity, and whether or not the coin has an error. But in the right circumstances, if you are lucky enough to find one in pristine mint state condition, or better yet, an extraordinary error coin, its value can reach an astonishing $48,000. That's right, $48,000 for a single quarter. Imagine the excitement of discovering something like that sitting quietly in an old coin jar or hidden away in a family collection. This is exactly why coin collecting remains one of the most thrilling hobbies in the world. Today we're going to explore one of the most intriguing coins in modern U.S. history, the 1967 Washington quarter dollar. At first glance, it might look like just another ordinary quarter, the kind you'd toss into a parking meter or vending machine. But if you pay close attention, you'll see that this coin tells a deeper story, about economic change, government policy, and collector treasures. And yes, some of these coins could be worth far more than just 25 cents. Stick with me, because at the end of this video, I'll reveal just how much a rare example of this coin might bring in today's market. To truly appreciate the 1967 Washington quarter, we need to rewind a bit to the mid-1960s. Just a few years earlier, American coinage was undergoing a seismic shift. For decades, quarters were made of 90% silver, but when the price of silver climbed, people began hoarding coins and melting them for their metal content. This created massive shortages across the country, and the U.S. Mint had to act quickly. Beginning in 1965, quarters were struck from a new copper-nickel-clad composition, eliminating silver altogether. The 1967 quarter is part of this new era of American coinage, a time when the very feel and look of our change was transformed forever. Another unusual feature of the 1967 quarter is the absence of a mint mark. During 1965, 1966, and 1967, the government deliberately removed mint marks from all circulating coins. The idea was to discourage people from collecting based on mint location and to ensure that coins would stay in circulation during the shortage. That means every single 1967 quarter you see, whether it was made in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, carries no mint mark at all. This policy makes the 1967 issue stand out in the long timeline of Washington quarters, since it's one of only a handful of years where mint marks disappeared completely. Let's take a closer look at the design. On the obverse, or front, is the well-known profile of George Washington, created by sculptor John Flanagan. Above his head reads the word Liberty, while the motto "In God We Trust" sits to the left. The date, 1967, is struck clearly beneath Washington's portrait. On the reverse, we see a bold and majestic eagle with wings spread wide, perched on a bundle of arrows, framed by olive branches. This design is more than just decorative, it reflects America's dual values of strength and peace. For collectors, it's a classic and enduring design that symbolizes American heritage, but here's where things get really exciting for collectors: condition and rarity. Millions of 1967 quarters were produced, and most circulated heavily, meaning they picked up scratches, dings, and general wear. These circulated coins usually hold no more than face value. But coins that have been carefully preserved, those that remain in brilliant uncirculated or even proof-like condition, are in an entirely different category. Collectors prize these high-grade examples because they are so much harder to find. A coin graded by professionals at the upper levels of the mint state scale can be worth hundreds or even thousands of times more than its face value, and then there are the error coins. The world of error coins is where the thrill of coin hunting truly comes alive. With the 1967 Washington quarter, certain minting mistakes make them incredibly valuable. Some are struck off-center, others show double die features, and in very rare cases, a few are rumored to have been struck on leftover silver planchets from earlier years. Imagine finding a 1967 quarter that's slightly heavier because it was accidentally struck on silver instead of the standard copper-nickel clad. It's the kind of discovery that changes an ordinary coin into an extraordinary prize. Errors are so special because no two are exactly alike. A misaligned die, a clipped planchet, or a dramatic double strike turns a common coin into a unique collectible. And because these errors are not intentional, they are often overlooked, lost in circulation, or sitting unnoticed in someone's old coin jar. That's why careful collectors always examine every detail of their quarters, hoping to spot one of these valuable mistakes. Beyond condition and errors, there's also the historical significance of the 1967 quarter to consider. This coin represents a moment in time when the U.S. Mint was under tremendous pressure to keep coins flowing into the economy. By eliminating mint marks and shifting away from silver, the Mint created a coin that perfectly embodies the economic struggles and solutions of its era. Every 1967 quarter is like a little time capsule, carrying with it the story of America's changing monetary landscape. Now, let's imagine for a moment, you come across a 1967 Washington quarter that has never been spent, a coin with gleaming luster and sharp details, or perhaps one with a dramatic mint error that makes it unlike any other. Such a find could transform a simple 25-cent piece into something extraordinary, and here's the moment you've been waiting for. If you're lucky enough to own a 1967 Washington quarter dollar in pristine mint condition, or an ultra-rare error variety, its value could soar to an astonishing $58,000, yes, $58,000 for a single quarter. It's hard to believe, but it's true, something so small, something most people overlook, could hold life-changing value. So the next time you come across an old quarter, don't dismiss it as just another coin. Take a closer look, because you might just be holding a treasure in the palm of your hand. Today, we are going to talk about a coin that many people overlook, yet it carries a fascinating history and surprising collector value, the 1973 Washington quarter dollar. You might have seen one, you might even have one, but do you really know what makes this coin so special? Stick around, because we're about to explore the history, the design, the mint marks, the rarity, and at the very end, I'll reveal just how much one of these coins could be worth if you find the right one. Let's begin with a bit of history. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. By 1973, this coin had already been circulating for more than 4 decades and had become one of the most familiar coins in American life. But while it looked the same on the outside, a lot had changed in its composition and production over the years. Remember, the original Washington quarters were struck in 90% silver until 1964. By the mid-1960s, due to rising silver prices and nationwide hoarding, the U.S. Mint replaced silver with a copper-nickel clad composition. The 1973 quarter belongs to this post-silver era, struck on a clad planchet with an inner core of pure copper bonded to outer layers of copper-nickel. Now, let's talk about mint marks. Unlike the coins of 1965 through 1967 that carried no mint marks, the quarters struck in 1973 once again featured mint marks to indicate where they were produced. A quarter with no mint mark came from the Philadelphia Mint. A D mint mark meant it was struck in Denver, and an S meant San Francisco. But here's where it gets really exciting for collectors. The 1973 S coins include both proof versions and regular business strikes. Proof coins were made with extra care, struck multiple times on polished planchets, resulting in sharp details and mirror-like surfaces. Collectors highly prize these proofs, and the 1973 S proof quarters are among the most attractive of the decade. The design itself is classic and timeless. On the obverse side, you'll see the profile of George Washington, a design by John Flanagan that has endured through much of the 20th century. Above his head is the word Liberty, while the national motto "In God We Trust" sits to the left, and the year 1973 is placed prominently below. On the reverse side, you'll find the heraldic eagle, wings spread wide, clutching arrows in its talons, symbolizing strength and preparedness. Surrounding the eagle are olive branches, representing peace. This simple yet powerful imagery makes the Washington quarter an enduring icon of American coinage, but what makes the 1973 quarter especially intriguing to collectors is not just its design or its wide mintage, but the variations, conditions, and possible errors that can turn an ordinary coin into a hidden gem. Millions were produced in 1973, but most entered circulation and became worn down from everyday use. Finding one in pristine, uncirculated condition is much rarer than you might think. Coins that have been carefully preserved in mint state condition with strong luster and virtually no marks are highly sought after, and then, of course, there are the error coins. Minting errors are one of the most thrilling aspects of coin collecting, and the 1973 Washington quarter is no exception. Examples include off-center strikes, double die obverse or reverses, clipped planchets, and coins struck on the wrong planchets altogether. Imagine a 1973 quarter that was accidentally struck on a leftover silver or nickel planchet. Such a coin would be an extraordinary rarity, making it worth far more than its face value. Error coins are always exciting because they are essentially one of a kind, each mistake turning into a unique collectible that sparks tremendous interest among serious collectors. Another factor that affects value is grading. Professional coin grading services like PCGS and NGC assign grades based on the coin's condition, from circulated to mint state to proof deep cameo. A high-grade mint state 1973 quarter or a flawless proof with mirror-like surfaces can command impressive prices in the numismatic market. Collectors will pay top dollar for coins that showcase perfection, and those are far harder to come by than the average worn quarter. It's also important to note the historical context of 1973. This was a period of change in America, both socially and economically. The coinage of that year reflects a nation adapting to modern minting technology, moving firmly away from silver coinage into a new era of copper-nickel production. When you hold a 1973 quarter in your hand, you're holding a small piece of that history, a coin that connects everyday commerce with the story of a nation in transition. So now, let's get to the part you've been waiting for. Just how much can a 1973 Washington quarter dollar be worth? Well, while common circulated examples may only be worth a quarter, the rare ones, those in flawless condition or those with dramatic mint errors, are an entirely different story. In fact, a 1973 Washington quarter in the right condition and with the right characteristics can reach an incredible value of $65,000, yes, $65,000 for a single quarter. That's the kind of life-changing discovery that reminds us why coin collecting is so fascinating. Something so small, something so ordinary looking, can hold an extraordinary hidden value. So next time you're going through your change, take a close look at those quarters. You never know. You might be holding onto a treasure worth far more than 25 cents. Today, we're setting our sights on a coin from the 1980s that many people might overlook, but one that carries surprising collector interest, the 1980 Washington quarter dollar. At first glance, it might just look like another coin you'd find in your spare change, but don't be fooled. Some of these quarters can be worth far more than 25 cents, and in some rare cases, their value might even blow your mind. Stay tuned, because by the end of this video, I'll reveal just how much one of these coins could be worth if you're lucky enough to have the right one. Let's start by putting the 1980 Washington quarter into context. By this time, the Washington quarter had already been in circulation for nearly half a century, first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. But unlike the early silver quarters, the 1980 edition was struck on a copper-nickel clad planchet. The United States had stopped producing silver quarters after 1964, so every 1980 quarter is composed of an inner core of pure copper with outer layers of copper and nickel. This clad design gave the coin its distinctive look and durability, making it perfect for daily use across the country. Now, what makes the 1980 quarter stand out to collectors is the return and importance of mint marks. In 1980, quarters were struck at multiple mints, and the coins carry marks to show their origin. A quarter with no mint mark came from Philadelphia, which resumed the use of mint marks in 1980 for the first time since the 1940s. That means if you see a P on a 1980 quarter, it's historically significant because it marked the very first year the Philadelphia Mint used the P mint mark on quarters. A D mark indicates the coin was minted in Denver, while an S mark belongs to San Francisco, where proof coins were produced. For collectors, these mint marks play a huge role in identifying varieties and rarities. Let's talk about the design. The obverse features the familiar bust of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan. Above his head is the word Liberty, while to the left you see the motto "In God We Trust," and the year 1980 is placed clearly below. On the reverse, you'll find the powerful heraldic eagle, wings spread wide, perched on a bundle of arrows, with olive branches beneath. This image symbolizes America's strength and readiness to defend itself, balanced with its desire for peace. Though it had been used for decades, the design remained striking and deeply symbolic, reminding everyone of America's history and values, but design alone doesn't explain why the 1980 quarter has become so interesting to collectors. Much of its appeal lies in rarity and condition. While millions of quarters were minted in 1980, most went straight into circulation. They were spent, tossed in jars, clinked together in pockets, and over time picked up scratches, nicks, and heavy wear. Circulated examples usually hold little more than their face value. However, uncirculated coins, those preserved in pristine condition, with sharp details, full luster, and no signs of wear, are much harder to find and much more valuable. Coins graded at high mint state levels by professional services can fetch significantly higher prices from collectors who want the very best, and then, of course, we have error coins, which are always the gems of coin collecting. The 1980 quarter has been found with several types of errors, including off-center strikes, double die obverse, broad strikes without a collar, and planchet flaws. Each of these mistakes makes the coin unique, and unique means valuable. Collectors love error coins because no two are exactly alike, they're accidental works of art from the mint itself. Some of the most valuable 1980 quarters are those with dramatic, eye-catching errors that stand out immediately. One especially exciting aspect is the possibility of transitional errors or wrong planchet strikes. These are cases where a coin might have been struck on a planchet meant for another denomination. Imagine holding a 1980 Washington quarter that was mistakenly struck on a dime planchet or even on a leftover silver planchet from another year. Such a coin would be incredibly rare and highly prized. These are the kinds of discoveries that make people check their coins carefully, because they can turn a common piece of change into a true treasure. The year 1980 was also significant for American coinage as it marked a new chapter for mint marks, as I mentioned earlier. The introduction of the P mint mark on quarters from the Philadelphia Mint was a milestone, ending a long era of Philadelphia coins being left without identification. For collectors, this detail adds an extra layer of historical importance to the 1980 quarter, making it more than just a piece of currency, it's a piece of numismatic history. So, why should you pay attention to the 1980 Washington quarter? Because hidden among the millions of ordinary examples are coins that tell a bigger story. They may be proof coins with mirror-like finishes, they may be mint state coins preserved in perfection, or they may be rare mint errors that turn heads at auctions. And those are the kinds of coins that collectors are willing to pay serious money for. And now, the part you've been waiting for. Just how much can one of these 1980 Washington quarters be worth? While most are only worth a quarter, a rare example in pristine condition or one with a dramatic mint error can reach an astonishing value of $70,000, yes, $70,000 for a single quarter. It's the kind of value that transforms pocket change into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. So the next time you come across an old quarter from 1980, don't dismiss it as ordinary. Take a closer look, check the mint mark, study its condition, and keep an eye out for unusual features. You just might be holding a coin that could change your life. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the story of the 1980 Washington quarter dollar, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our future explorations into rare and valuable coins. Thanks for joining me today, and as always, happy collecting.